Let's get one thing clear right now. A woman can have a male friend if and only if she's allowed to be a human being before she's reduced to a gender. Why is this still a debate in 2025? Why are we still questioning the integrity of a friendship just because one person is a woman and the other is a man? This is not about chemistry. It's not about temptation. It's about the boxes society forces women into, constantly framing every interaction through a lens of desire or drama. We've been taught that men and women can't just exist in the same space without something romantic or worse, scandalous brewing underneath. That's the poison. That's the assumption we've been fed and told to swallow quietly. But here's the truth. Not every connection is a setup for something else. Sometimes it's just two humans, fully formed, fully seen, fully respected, connecting in the name of growth, not game. Let's talk about labels. Because they've been slapped on women for centuries. Flirt. Tease. Too friendly. What do all those labels have in common? They reduce a woman's actions down to how a man might perceive them. It's exhausting. It's insulting. And it's wrong. A woman should not have to censor her kindness. She shouldn't have to tone down her energy, her laughter, her openness, just to avoid being misunderstood. Why is it so hard to accept that a woman can smile without seduction in her eyes? That she can enjoy a conversation without an ulterior motive? She's not a mystery to be solved. She's a person navigating this life with just as much complexity, intelligence, and intention as anyone else. We've made it normal to question a woman's platonic bonds. You hear it all the time. Oh, come on, there's no way they're just friends. And why not? What part of us still struggles to believe that emotional depth can exist without sexual tension? Maybe it's because we've been conditioned to see relationships in binaries, romantic or nothing. But that's not real life. Real life is layered, it's rich, and friendship, real friendship, doesn't need romance to be valid. It needs trust. It needs presence, and it needs two people who are confident enough in themselves that they don't need society's approval to define what they share. There's also something deeply flawed about the way we link physical appearance to intention, as if a woman who is attractive must have men chasing her, as if a man who enjoys her company must want more. We strip both of them of agency when we think this way. We forget that relationships aren't about appearances. They're about alignment. They're about conversation, energy, honesty, and loyalty. A woman being beautiful doesn't make her incapable of real friendship. It just means she's navigating a world that often doesn't trust her motives. And that's not her burden to carry. That's society's to fix. Let's flip the script. What if we started assuming the best instead of the worst? What if we taught boys and girls from the start that they could respect each other's boundaries, admire each other's minds, and show up for one another without it being about attraction? What if we created space for deep platonic intimacy that isn't romanticized or sexualized, but honored? That's not some wild fantasy. That's evolution. That's the kind of emotional intelligence we need more of. Because when a woman is allowed to build friendships without being questioned, she thrives. She connects with the world on a deeper level. And she starts showing others, especially young women, that they too can exist fully, freely, and without fear of being misread. This is not about denying that men and women can be attracted to each other. Of course they can. But attraction doesn't erase boundaries. It doesn't cancel out respect. And it doesn't mean that every male-female interaction is headed toward romance. That's an outdated narrative. A lazy one. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to dim her light to protect someone else's fragile ideas about friendship. She walks in with clarity, she speaks with intention, and she builds connections that are rooted in truth, not tension. The world will catch up eventually, but she won't wait for its permission. You said, expand the 2 key points into 6 paragraphs, make it lengthy, 700 words. Do not add ending also, dot mention, paragraph name. ChatGPT said, let's get real about something too many people still can't handle. A confident woman with male friends isn't performing for anyone. She's not curating her personality to attract, impress, or provoke. She's simply existing in her truth. And for some people, that's terrifying. Because when a woman walks through the world with unapologetic self-assurance, she challenges every outdated belief about how women are supposed to behave, especially around men. Society has trained us to think that confidence is a weapon when it lives inside a woman, that her independence must be a mask, that her friendships must be tactics. But here's the truth, her power isn't manipulation, it's authenticity. We have to understand the difference between being approachable and being available. Just because a woman holds eye contact, just because she laughs out loud, just because she speaks with boldness and listens with depth, it doesn't mean she's inviting romantic energy. She's being present, she's being human, and yet people rush to label her, she must be flirting, she's leading him on. No, she's honoring herself by not shrinking in her own space. She's not responsible for how others interpret her light. That's the work they need to do on their own. The issue isn't her confidence, it's the fragility of the egos around her. Too often, women are told to dim their power to make others comfortable. Be nice, but not too bold. Be kind, but not too magnetic. Be strong, but not intimidating. And especially around men, keep your energy in check, because you might send the wrong message. That conditioning is deep, and it shows up in the way women second-guess their friendships. They wonder if they're being too open. They question whether their energy is too much. But here's the radical shift. What if women stopped adjusting and men started evolving? What if we stopped blaming confidence and started teaching emotional intelligence? A woman can absolutely have male friends if her confidence is respected, not interpreted. Confidence is not a performance, it's a presence. And it doesn't owe anyone softness. It doesn't owe anyone an explanation. It's not a disguise for desire, nor a code to be cracked. It's her truth, living loud. And men who are secure in themselves don't shrink in its presence. They don't mistake her boldness for seduction. They don't try to possess her or define her. They stand beside her with clarity, because they recognize a woman who owns herself isn't threatening. She's rare, let's be honest. When a woman is quiet, she's mysterious. When she's loud, she's too much. When she's friendly, she's inviting. When she's guarded, she's cold. At what point is she just allowed to be? This constant tightrope walk between being palatable and being powerful is exhausting. And the fear of being misunderstood has silenced far too many women from forming genuine friendships with men. So she pulls back. She distances herself. She sacrifices connection just to stay safe from judgment. But here's the truth. Playing small doesn't protect you. It just starves you. And women are done starving. Confidence in a woman should not be a disclaimer, should not be followed with, but she's nice, or but she's taken. It should be enough on its own. A woman can be radiant and still have no interest in romance. She can be fierce and still deeply loyal. She can be magnetic and still choose her boundaries with precision. Her male friends don't need to watch out, they need to level up. Because if a man can't sit in the presence of a powerful woman without twisting it into desire, that's not a friendship. And women are done being written into someone else's fiction. It's a word we throw around like it's simple, but it isn't. Especially when we're talking about men being friends with women. A woman can have a male friend if and only if that man understands what respect actually means. Not the performative kind, not the kind that shows up when she's watching, but the deep-rooted kind of respect that's felt when she's not even in the room. The kind that doesn't shift based on how she looks that day, what she's wearing, or who she's dating. Real respect isn't fragile. It's steady, unmoved by ego, unshaken by denial. And that's the foundation every real friendship stands on. Too many men confuse patience with respect. They wait around like it's a silent investment, thinking maybe one day she'll see them differently. As if kindness is a currency, as if friendship is a strategy. Let's be clear, that's not respect. That's entitlement wrapped in a smile. That's proximity disguised as virtue. When a man is only present because he hopes her no will eventually turn into yes, he's not a friend. He's an opportunist. Respect doesn't wait in the wings for romance to fail. It doesn't linger in hope. It walks beside her in full acceptance of what is, not what could be. A woman needs friends who protect her name when she's not around, who don't let her become the punchline, who shut down the whispers, the suggestions, the "you sure you're just friends?" comments. That's the test of real male friendship. How does he speak about her when there's nothing to gain? Does he reduce her to a joke when his boys are watching? Or does he hold her dignity like it's sacred? Because if he can't honor her when no one's looking, he was never her friend to begin with. Respect shows up in silence. It shows up when no applause is coming. And it's in those unseen moments that real friendship is either born or broken. A man who respects a woman doesn't need to possess her to value her. He doesn't see her attention as a prize to be won. He sees her as a person, not a puzzle to solve. There's no manipulation, no friend-zoning resentment, no scorekeeping, just presence, just admiration, just clarity. And here's the part most people miss. Respect isn't passive, it's active. It's seen in how he listens, how he holds space, how he doesn't make her shrink or question her energy. He doesn't compete with her confidence. He complements it by showing up with integrity, not insecurity. Let's talk about control. Because sometimes what's called respect is just control dressed in manners. A man who lets a woman be herself, as long as it fits his comfort zone, isn't being respectful, he's being strategic. Real respect has no conditions. It doesn't punish her for evolving. It doesn't pull away when she asserts boundaries. It doesn't change when she starts dating someone or when she doesn't return the feelings he never had the courage to voice. If friendship shifts every time the power dynamic tilts, it was never built on respect. It was built on a script, one where she was expected to play a role she never auditioned for. At the core of it all, a male friend who truly respects a woman makes her feel safe. Not just physically, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. She doesn't have to perform. She doesn't have to question his motives. She doesn't have to decode his words or manage his emotions. She can be fully herself, loud, quiet, messy, clear, and still feel seen, heard, and valued. That's not common. That's rare. And that's why when women find that kind of respect, that kind of clarity, that kind of alignment, they protect it. Because in a world that's constantly questioning her, a man who doesn't stands out. She must like him. He's definitely into her. They say they're just friends, but you know how that goes. This is the noise women are forced to live through. Constant commentary. Constant suspicion. Society doesn't observe male-female friendships, it dissects them. Looks for cracks, for signs, for the slightest spark to justify its own discomfort. But let's ask the real question. Why is it so hard to believe in pure connection? Why do we assume ulterior motives instead of trusting mutual respect? Because deep down, many people are still clinging to outdated narratives that see relationships as transactional. Men only stay if there's something in it for them, and women are either the prize or the temptation. It's shallow, it's toxic, and it's wrong. Society's obsession with sexual tension has stripped us of our ability to understand depth. It's made people forget that two humans, regardless of gender, can share ideas, laughter, fears, dreams, and nothing else. That the way two people speak to each other isn't always flirting, that their late-night conversations aren't always preludes to romance. That sitting close, laughing hard, defending each other fiercely, these aren't signs of secret love stories. These are signs of real friendship. But because we're so uncomfortable with emotional intimacy that isn't romantic, we twist it into something more palatable to our limited understanding. This mindset doesn't just misinterpret, it damages. It places women under a spotlight that's harsh, relentless, and suffocating. Every gesture, every smile, every shared joke is put under a microscope. And suddenly, a woman can't just exist, she has to explain, defend, justify. No, we're really just friends. No, I'm not leading him on. No, I'm not hiding anything. that you start questioning herself, holding back, censoring, not because she wants to, but because she knows the world is waiting to misread her. This isn't just personal, it's cultural. We teach girls from an early age that their friendships with boys are dangerous territory, that closeness will be misread, that warmth will be taken as an invitation. So they learn to be careful, they learn to be distant, and boys learn to expect something more, to read into things, to believe that friendship is just a phase before something real begins. But what if we raise them differently? What if we raise boys and girls to believe in boundaries and emotional clarity instead of conquest and confusion? What if we normalized friendships that were rooted in mutual respect rather than potential romance? A woman can have a male friend if society stops projecting its insecurities onto her choices. If the people around her stop looking at her life like it's a movie plot waiting for a twist. Her story doesn't need to be spiced up with drama. Her friendships don't need to be rebranded as something more. Maybe, just maybe, they're already complete. Maybe she's built these bonds with intention, not hesitation. Maybe she's chosen the people in her circle because of the way they see her soul, not her silhouette. When we stop assuming hidden feelings, we start seeing real friendship for what it is. Sacred, honest, and transformative. At the heart of it all, this is about trust. Trusting women to know themselves, trusting them to choose their connections, trusting that not everything has to be packaged as romantic to be valuable. When we trust women, we stop narrating their lives for them, we stop reading between lines that don't exist, we stop creating false drama in places where there's only depth. A woman doesn't owe anyone an explanation for who she laughs with, confides in, or walks beside. Her friendships are not for your entertainment or speculation. They're hers. And if we can't respect that, we are the problem, not her. A woman can have a male friend if attraction doesn't become a ticking time bomb hidden underneath the surface. Because let's be honest. Yes, attraction can exist. That's human, that's biology, but the presence of attraction doesn't mean it must be acted on. It doesn't mean it needs to grow into something else. And it certainly doesn't mean the friendship is invalid. The problem isn't that attraction exists. The problem is that we've been taught to fear it, suppress it, or let it ruin everything. We've been taught that men and women are incapable of emotional maturity, that they can't sit in the same space without desire hijacking the entire dynamic. That is a lie, one built by people too afraid to sit in the complexity of human relationships. Here's what emotional maturity looks like: acknowledging attraction, respecting it, and then deciding to honor the boundary of friendship. It's not denial, it's not pretending, it's discipline, it's clarity. It's choosing connection over conquest. When two people know there could be something more, but choose not to go there, that's not confusion, that's power. That's two people showing up with intention. That's respect on another level. And that kind of clarity doesn't weaken the bond, it strengthens it, because now everything that exists between them is a choice, not a default, not a maybe. A conscious, grounded decision to value something deeper than impulse. But society doesn't teach us that. Society teaches us that if there's chemistry, there must be a next step. That if someone's attractive, desire is inevitable and friendship is a lie. That binary thinking is what destroys more relationships than any attraction ever will. Because it doesn't leave room for nuance. It doesn't believe people can grow past temptation. It doesn't believe in discipline, only indulgence. But the truth is, the most powerful connections are the ones that don't need to be sexualized to be meaningful. They're rooted in mutual admiration, not ambition. They're built on boundaries, not blurred lines. And let's not forget how often this narrative hurts women the most. When a woman shares a deep bond with a male friend, people assume she's unaware, naive, or secretly in love. Her clarity is dismissed, her decisions are doubted. If she says there's no romantic tension, people don't believe her. They call her blind or worse, manipulative. But why? Because we still don't trust women to own their emotional landscapes without dragging them into drama. We don't give them the credit to manage complexity with maturity. So instead, we project, we speculate, and we chip away at friendships that were never broken to begin with. Here's the truth. Attraction is just one part of the human experience. It's not a threat unless we allow it to become one. It doesn't have to derail or distort. It can simply be acknowledged and moved through with grace, with strength, with respect. And when both people are emotionally grounded, attraction doesn't make things complicated. It makes the friendship more real. Because there's no pretending, no guessing, just truth spoken and honored. And from that place, trust becomes unshakable because they've already walked through the fire and chosen to build something that doesn't burn. This is the evolution we need. Relationships that aren't defined by urges, friendships that survive transparency, a new definition of closeness, one that doesn't need to tiptoe around desire, but also doesn't bow to it. A woman can absolutely have a male friend, even when attraction exists, if both people are aligned in their values, if they see each other not just for how they look, but for who they are, and if they're willing to protect the bond, not possess it. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's growth. And that's what real friendship looks like in a world that's finally learning how to love without owning. A woman can have a male friend if both people know how to communicate with radical honesty. Not just the surface level politeness, not vague signals or passive silence, but direct, clear, courageous communication. The kind that requires emotional responsibility. Because in every meaningful friendship, especially one between a man and a woman, things will arise, boundaries will shift, emotions will evolve, life will test the connection. And if the only tool in their toolbox is avoidance, the friendship won't last. Honesty isn't optional. It's the oxygen of any bond built on trust. Without it, what looks like closeness will collapse under pressure. Communication means being able to say, hey, that made me uncomfortable, without fear of breaking the connection. It means a man can hear a no without disappearing. It means a woman can say, I need more space, without being made to feel guilty. And it also means they can celebrate each other's growth, changes, and new relationships without insecurity creeping in. Too many friendships dissolve, not because of some dramatic betrayal, but because someone felt something, said nothing, and let assumptions fill the silence. That silence becomes distance, and that distance becomes resentment. But when communication is open, respectful, and consistent, misunderstandings don't build. They dissolve. We've glamorized unspoken tension. We treat mystery like a virtue, but real connection isn't built in shadows. It's built in clarity. And that includes the uncomfortable conversations, the ones that challenge egos and invite vulnerability. Like, are we still aligned in how we see this friendship? Or do either of us need something different now? These talks aren't threats. They're maintenance. They're the tune-ups that keep the engine running. Because no bond lasts forever by accident. It lasts because both people are committed to checking in, not checking out. And this isn't just about conflict, it's also about celebration. Healthy communication means being able to hype each other up without fear of it being misunderstood. A male friend should be able to say, you're glowing, you're powerful, I'm proud of you, without it being a setup for something more. And a woman should be able to say, you've grown, I admire your strength, without it being a flirtation. The world needs more examples of this. More models of what non-sexual, deeply affirming, emotionally intelligent male-female friendships look like. Because they are possible, and they are powerful. Communication also means holding each other accountable. A real friend isn't just someone who listens. They challenge, too. A male friend should be able to call out disrespect in her life, not just nod silently. He should protect her peace, not just enjoy her presence. And she, in return, should be able to point out when he's acting out of alignment. That's what makes the friendship sacred, not just the laughs and memories, but the growth it inspires. You know, a friendship is real when both people leave each other better, sharper, clearer. So yes, a woman can have a male friend if they are willing to talk. Really talk, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's vulnerable. Because in the end, communication isn't just about words, it's about intention. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully, not just when it's easy, but when it's necessary, when two people are willing to meet each other there. In truth, in trust, in transparency, friendship doesn't just survive, it transforms. It becomes something unshakable, something rare, something real. A woman can have a male friend if both individuals understand that their connection isn't bound by anyone else's expectations or limitations. It's about respecting each other's autonomy, celebrating each other's growth, and choosing clarity over confusion. It's about knowing that friendship doesn't need to be defined by society's rules or gendered assumptions. When a woman and a man choose to build a bond rooted in honesty, trust, and mutual respect, they can create something far more powerful than the fleeting, conditional relationships the world tries to force upon them. They can create a friendship that stands the test of time, built not on attraction or potential, but on true understanding, shared experiences, and the freedom to be themselves, without fear or limitation. And that, my friends, is the kind of connection that the world needs more of. Authentic, empowering, and lasting.